I always remembered back in grade school that Pentecost Sunday was always called the birthday of the church. And I thought that was nice. But then you get to reading the Gospels and you see in John's Gospel that the Spirit was given to us, the church, on the very day of the resurrection. Remember, Jesus appears in the upper room and he breathes on them, breathing on, in that language, breath, spirit, same word. He gave them visually the Spirit and told them what he wanted them to do. And the task he set for the church, for us, was forgiveness. Go into the whole world and preach the good news. You are forgiven. Later on in my life, reading the early fathers of the church, the early writers, they talk about the church being born out of the open side of Christ. The water and the blood, baptism and the Eucharist. It's all very mystical and symbolic, but I always thought that was a better birth situation than Pentecost. Pentecost to me is not a birthday, but a graduation day, a commencement day. This is the day Jesus says, get going. I'm leaving, get going. Go out there and carry what I have been and done into the rest of the world. That's why that beautiful story of the apostles coming out of the upper room and away from all their fears and hesitations and preaching the good news in languages that people could understand. And I think that's the really critical issue today in our church. Not only in our church as an institution, but in our personal Christian lives, that we have to convey the good news to people in a language they can understand. So often as an institution, we've packaged the good news. We packaged it since the 4th century in Latin, which was probably wonderful because everybody was speaking Latin, but then we kept it going and it became less and less understandable. That's just an example. So often in our own lives, we see our following of Christ as involving certain things, avoiding this. We seldom talk about doing that. We concentrate on what we have to stay away from, not what we have to do to obey the command of Jesus. Or certain types of prayer. To be a Catholic, you have to say the rosary. Well, I don't know what the Christians did up until the 12th century, but they didn't say the rosary, that's for sure. We can't package the message of Jesus, that the Father loves and that the Father forgives and that the Father is trying to pull us all back into the life of the Trinity. That's the big picture. And that's what we as individual Christians and then our whole church has to do. And I think that's probably what's happening in our day. We're becoming more and more aware of our need to present Jesus to the world in a way the world can understand. That's why the best image for me of this giving of the message is Our Lady of Guadalupe. Most of us grew up with the Madonna from the Middle Ages, the Renaissance Madonna, or sometimes if we really think we're biblical, we say, she was a Jewish teenager. We think we've got it all boxed in. But then Mary discloses herself as Maria, a Morena, a person whose culture had nothing to do in the beginning with the message of Jesus, and that she comes surrounded by all the symbols, not only of her own culture, but also of Christianity. We have to adapt. We have to begin to give the message of Jesus in ways people can understand. And in our own personal lives, that means taking the strength which the Spirit has given us from baptism and letting ourselves be empowered to show mercy to the people with whom we come in contact. The message must go out to all the world, but for each one of us, it has to start with the people closest to us, whether in the family or at work or wherever we find ourselves. That's Pentecost. The Spirit of Jesus pulling the world, the cosmos, back into the arms of the Trinity. That's the big picture. And that's why this is Commencement Day. It started on Pentecost, but it has not been concluded. And it will never be concluded unless we involve ourselves in this great saving venture.